Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Marketing Podcast, your source for all things marketing. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I had a guest on in the past, and I liked them so much I had to bring them right on back. So today's special return guest is Patti Sanchez, and she's the Chief Strategy Officer over at Duarte, and she's also author of Illuminate, Ignite Change Through Speeches, Stories, Ceremonies, and Symbols. Patti, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Super stoked to be back with you again.
So excited to have you back. It's like I'm getting the old podcast family back together again, and I'm excited to get into your book today. So we're going to take a deeper dive into Illuminate. But I don't want to assume that all of our new listeners caught the first episode. So let's just start off with telling us a little bit more about what you're doing over at Duarte, please.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Duarte is a communication firm in Silicon Valley. We've got people in a lot of places around the country, actually, but we work with some of the world's biggest brands, leaders, and people who are looking to drive change in their little corner of the world, and we help them do that by communicating really well. And we have creative services, consulting, and training to help people do that.
What are the right types of companies and or niches that you like working with? Because there's a lot of people listening right now. We do have a lot of listeners in Silicon Valley and Mountain View. I mean, that's where we get probably 10% of our downloads. So they're listening. What are the right types of clients you like working with?
Well, on the consulting side of the business, we tend to work more with large organizations, mid-sized to large enterprises, leaders, managers, people in those organizations who are really trying to mobilize large numbers of people to buy their products or to support their change initiatives. And so we work with large organizations on that side of the business, but then we have Duarte Academy, which is the arm that delivers training, both in-person workshops and now a ton of virtual workshops and online courses, and all kinds of people love that training, from the larger organizations to startups, entrepreneurs. Everybody can get something out of this.
Fantastic. So I do want to spend some time on the book. So Illuminate, Ignite Change Through Speeches, Stories, Ceremonies, and Symbols. Let's start off with, what was the inspiration for this?
Well, I mentioned that we work with a lot of leaders who are trying to drive change, and I was getting calls from executives or even people in middle management in companies who said, I've got a really big idea, and I need to not just communicate it really well in one moment. I want to create a movement around this idea. And I thought, interesting, and what the heck is a movement anyway? And so I had to do a little research, and in partnership with the CEO of Duarte, Nancy Duarte, she and I did about 3 years of research into movements of all kinds in business and society, and we found a common pattern. And that is what we teach in the book and also in the training that's based on it.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I want to go a little bit further into the book now. To the listeners, we're not going to have time to go through all of them, but I definitely want you to go out and pick up a copy of this, especially if you're trying to lead a movement in something bigger than like a one-time sale. I looked through the book, and it's pretty in depth, and I think I haven't seen something else written quite like this. You go through multiple case studies. So you go through Rackspace, Interface. You go through a case study on civil rights. On Chick-fil-A, on Starbucks. You do quite a bit. Let's pick one of those. So which one was, and I don't want to say which one was your favorite. I know they're all your favorite, right? But what's one of your favorites to talk about in an interview for today? Because I want to give the audience a feel for the content.
Yeah, probably the one that's closest to my heart is Interface. You mentioned that one, and it's about a company that's not really a household name. They make carpet, and it's most often used in businesses. And the company, what I think is interesting about this story is that the company started out in the 1970s with making carpet in a traditional way, and then they had a sort of an opportunity emergency in the 1990s. After 20 years of success and growth, they started getting some hard questions from customers about their impact on the environment, because carpeting is a petrochemical-based product traditionally, and so there's a lot of chemicals involved in the making of it, and customers are starting to poke at that and say, you're actually probably harming the environment. And so the CEO at the time, Ray C. Anderson, didn't have an answer to those questions, and it really troubled him. And so he went on his own research journey to try and figure out what kind of a difference could his company make to the environment. What did it mean to be a good steward of the environment? And along the way, he discovered not just a strategy for how the company could do less harm, but actually a whole innovation opportunity to create renewable, reusable, and in fact, zero impact products. And he led this movement inside of Interface to really transform how the company built its products, how they take their products to market, and it inspired the entire industry, I think, to reimagine itself so that it could be, better for the planet, but also better for people. And it's such a great story because it started with a problem that turned into an opportunity, and a leader who was fearless about pursuing that opportunity, even in the midst of really tough times, because there was a downturn happening when it started too. So I think it's a real profile in leadership skill.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I mean, just thinking out loud about how that would look. So you think that, oh my gosh, what's happening? My business could be turning its head. And then this leader, instead of going inward and trying to figure out how to cover it or how to do something else, they ends up innovating. I mean, that's amazing. It doesn't get any better than that.
I think that's the real truth of any tough situation we find ourselves in. That the first layer that we experience as leaders is the trouble, the difficulty, the hard conversations we have to have. This podcast will live for a long time, so people may be listening to it long after this COVID crisis is over. But where we are right now as we're having this conversation is a lot of companies are struggling. They're losing business because we're all in shelter in place. And so we're feeling that, and it's a hard thing for leaders to deal with because they're trying to keep the business running, but they also have to make really tough choices, layoffs and cuts and things like that. But there's a silver lining in that, and I don't mean to sugarcoat the hard times. We go through these challenges ourselves. I'm going through it myself, and it's no fun. But what gives me hope is that there's actually an opportunity in here for me to think differently about the way that I work, for my people to find a new purpose, at the very least in bringing us through this tough time. But on the other side, there's actually opportunity. And so in every crisis, there's also potential to reinvent yourself.
Oh, I love it. Makes total sense. So Patti, I could first off, I could talk to you all day long, and I'm gonna have you back on the reunion 2021. I'm gonna say, okay, Patti, what are we doing now? but
I think you call it a family reunion. I just hope I'm not the crazy aunt.
Well, what does that make me? I don't even want to know. So that being said, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Duarte or Duarte Academy or the book, I mean, what's the best way for them to follow up and to learn more?
Super easy. Just open up your browser and type in www.duarte.com. That's DUARTE.com. That'll take you to the company's website. You'll find information about everything that we do and resources, articles, things like that. We've got a blog full of tips, and you can learn about our training there too.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Patti, it was great having you back on the show. Thank you for coming back on and sharing your insight and tips and talking more about your book, Illuminate. Great book. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Marketing, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. I mean, love to know what's going on in your neck of the world and what kind of projects you're working on. Let's keep the conversation going in the YouTube community. And Patti, thanks again for coming back on the show.